Hello, I am going to walk you through how to use the graphs for your client evaluation, your final project that you'll do in the course. So let's just get to it. I did not write anything in advance, so I'm just going to look and do while you're watching, and we'll talk about this more in class as well. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, when you go to the, get to the page, when you go to the course, you will find the clinical research evaluation and presentation assignment. In fact, it should be listed right here under assignments. When you click on it, and you click on this right here, it is due literally the night before our final day of class. There are explanations of the assignment here. You are essentially going to use two standardized measures. You are going to create one individualized rating scale, and you are going to track the client at least 3 times, once at baseline, once again, and then once at a final measurement point at a minimum. You may do more, and I'll explain that when we get to the multiple measurement graph that you'll need to use. It's up to you, but you are required to do at least 3. And you will plot your information on 2 different graphs, one on the multiple data point graph, and then one on a pre and post test graph. And that's just so that you have experience of using the 2 different ones, as well as an opportunity to see how looking at the data across multiple time points versus just pre and post might change your interpretation of the results. May not, right? But it's important for you to know how to do that. All of the files that you need to be able to graph this assignment are available here. I'm sorry, I get hiccups, random hiccups. They're all available here. So you have a line graph, a bar graph, and a combination graph. These are all pre-post test designs, meaning there's only 2 data points: baseline before you start the intervention, and then post-test once you're done, or the last time that you measure, right? Let me move this because I'm looking off to the corner, but it's because I keep looking at myself like I'm looking at a person. The multiple data collections, it's labeled for practice, but you have to do it now. Sorry. So you'll have to do this. So you will do this plot, and then you will pick one of these other 3, and both of those graphs will be included on your poster PowerPoint slide. Okay. The example of the PowerPoint poster template is here. You can format it however you want, but I do have information written in there so you know what's required. Okay. And then this one down here is the statistical analysis of single subject design. You have a mini video on this in one of your modules for a lecture. And we will talk through it as well in class when that time comes. This is for you to save for later, and it may actually be incorporated into our lab work, but I'm not going to say if that's actually going to happen or not now, because I'm going to use this video indefinitely, and I might change my mind over time. So sometimes I use this as lab work over time, and sometimes I don't. So we'll see. But that is there for you, okay? Not required right now for an assignment. It will never be required for an assignment. How about that? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look at here is, let me move this down so I can move that. The first thing we're going to look at here is the bar graph. This again is a pre-post test design, and it is already set up for you to be able to input your data for the baseline and for the post test for each of your 3 measures. So you have baseline of the individualized rating scale that you will create. You have baseline of your first standardized measure and baseline of your second standardized measure. Your 2 standardized measures will be addressing 2 different constructs, and I'll explain why that's important as we work through the class. But sometimes you're trying to reduce depression and anxiety. Sometimes you're trying to reduce stress and depression. Sometimes you're trying to reduce depression and increase happiness or a sense of purpose. Sometimes you're trying to reduce anxiety and increase self-esteem. And so the constructs that you will choose will dictate which standardized measures you're going to use. And don't worry, I will teach you how to find the measures and how to evaluate the measures to make sure that they are, one, standardized, and two, that they are appropriate for your client population, because not all standardized measures are appropriate for all populations, and you'll learn about that too. So essentially what you'll do is, the first thing you'll do is you will rename standardized measure 1 and standardized measure 2 to your two different standardized scales. The example I gave was like Beck depression. So let's say you're measuring with the Beck depression inventory, and let's say you're also measuring with the Beck anxiety inventory. You would rename these here so that they will populate here on your graph. So for example, if I was to show you what that looked like, and I'm sorry if you are already super familiar with this, but I have to make sure because everybody comes with a different foundation of data knowledge and working with Excel. You see how it changed on the graph? That's what I want you to do. Okay, so you will rename the standardized measures 1 and 2 to your two different standardized measures. You leave the individualized rating scale as it's noted here. Okay, and then you're going to replace the values with your measured values. So for example, your individualized rating scale that you create, you're going to have a different maximum number of values, right? You might only have a maximum value of 10, or you might have a maximum value of 60. So whatever your scores are, so your summary score for your individualized rating scale, the first one you take at baseline before you've started an intervention, that score goes right here. The very first measure, the very first standardized measure data collection at baseline that you take, that value goes here. Same for the second standardized measure. And then since this is a pre and post test, your last measure is going to be your post-test value here. And you'll do it for the individualized rating scale and both of your standardized measures. And as you change these values, you'll see how the graph population changes, right? I'm just messing with it just so you can see. Okay, see how it naturally populates. Okay, you'll want to make sure that you change the title. Okay, I don't really care what you title it, but don't leave title there. Since you're potentially measuring two different constructs, you could list the two different constructs there. You could just put your first or last name there. That's fine too. You could even use a handle if you want. We'll be using Kahoot throughout the course, and I really like the anonymity of it. So I always tell students to use a handle instead of their real name. So if you have a particular handle that you're super fun of and you want to out yourself, you can put your handle here, or you can create a new one. I don't care, as long as there's a title at the top. Okay. This isn't going to anybody but me. All right, so this is the bar graph. And you'll see that it shows you the blue is the individualized rating scale, the orange is the first standardized measure, the gray is the second standardized measure. And of course, you would have changed those names, so you would know, for example, if this was Beck depression and this was Beck anxiety, you would see that depression went up and anxiety went down, which actually is not super uncommon for them to kind of flop like that. Without intervention. They're the sisters or cousins of mental health issues. All right, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to rename these two right here, and you're going to input your data points. You're going to add the title, and then if you're going to use the bar graph as your pre and post test, you would copy and paste this graph into your PowerPoint poster. All right. This is a combination graph. And the way that I have it set up is the individualized rating scale is currently the bar graph, and the two standardized measures are line graphs. Same thing, give it a title, change the names of the standardized measures, and update these data points with your data points, right? So like, for example, what if this one didn't do better and it did worse, right? As you update the data information, it will update the graph, okay? So this is the combination. This is a pre-post test design. So this is the second one that you can choose from for your pre-post test design. And I gave you instructions at the top as well. But for those of you that are visual, I just want to provide this opportunity. And now I feel like I'm explaining why I'm repeating myself. Different learning styles, right? Different strokes, different folks. So I'm just trying to address different learning styles. So I do apologize if this feels repetitive and you got it just from the written explanation. All right, this is the, I'll go back to that one. This is the line graph evaluation. This is the third and last option that you have for pre and post test design. And it's just a simple 2-dot with a line between them graph, but it does show all 3 different measures. You'll do the same thing. You will update the names of the standardized measures, and you will change the data points to represent your values of the summary scores of your individualized rating scale and both of your standardized measures. When you change the names over here under column A, they will obviously change in the graph. When you update the data, the graph will populate differently. And don't forget to give it a title. And again, I don't care what you title it, just don't leave it title. All right, the last thing is the other measure that you have to do. So you're going to do one of the pre-post test. So the bar, the line, or the combination, one of those. And then you're also going to do this one. This one is the multiple data collections. I have it set up for a total of 6 weeks. You've got baseline and then 6 weeks, but you only have to do 3 time points. Okay, and I have to allow that because not all of you are going to have access to collect data. For a total of 6 weeks. You also have other classes and other things going on. There are also other things that you're having to work on in this course. So I'm mindful of that. I'm trying to be respectful of the limited time that you have. So what can I do that maximizes your learning and shows me that you know how to do it without overwhelming you with too much burden of, the product. I don't know why I did air quotes. Okay, so when you do this one, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to rename standardized measure 1 and 2, as you see here in column A. And then you're going to update your data points. But here's the thing. If you choose to only do 3 time points, okay, then you will first delete the columns, which is what I said here. So let's say you only do 3 time points. You have baseline, you have 1 other time point, and then you have your last time that you collect data, okay? You will first delete your columns, just like this, and you'll see they're disappearing on the graph. Okay, and then you'll rename these. You could say like midpoint, oops, I can type, and then you could do like, dude, okay. Then you could do like post test. What on earth am I clicking on? Right? And then you'll see it updates it here. Okay, baseline, midpoint, post test. Or you might decide to do baseline, session 3, or like week 3, and then post test, right? change whatever you list these as. Or you might do week 5, week 3, and then week 4. It might look something like that. I don't care what you do, just update these, okay? And it will populate this. Don't forget to give it a title. I have included the instructions here again, just in case you forget, because I know you got a lot going on and I'm not the only class you're taking. And then just a reminder, you must do at least 3 time points. You can do up to 6. I don't think you'll have time to do more than that, at least not with all 3 measures, because you've got another large assignment that's going to take up the first half of the semester. But if you want to do more, I'm happy to show you how to update this. There's not a problem with that. Or you could use the statistical analysis of single subject design if you want to do that. So we'll see. We can talk about it, but most of the time when I say you must do at least this, students just sort of hit that benchmark. So I'm making the assumption you'll only do 3, but I'm going to give it to you for 6. The reason I'm giving you up to 6 is because you're going to save these, I hope, and use them again when you are working, right? My goal is that if I simplify this for you and have everything set up for you, then once you've learned everything and you've collected all of the measures, because we are going to collect measures throughout the semester, and you'll make notes on them so that you have a good collection before you officially go off into the world and practice, then you will have everything you need to start evaluating your clients properly, okay? And you'll also, in hope, become a resource to all of your colleagues wherever you go to work, okay? So my goal is to make measurement less, I guess, quicker, more efficient, and more simplified. So simplify it and make it more efficient, because if it takes too much time, you're not going to have time to do it because you're going to be busy, right? So how do I do this? I create these in advance. I save them for you. You download them, you save them, and then you can take them with you wherever you go to work. Okay. All right. So that's it for these. Again, you will do this at least 3 different time points, but you can do up to 6. And this will undo itself. There we go. So you'll do at least 3 time points, but you can do up to, actually, I guess 7 time points here. Then you will choose from one of the 3 pre-post test designs: the line graph here, the combination graph that has lines, and bar graphs, or just the bar graph. Okay, and I did include instructions on each one so that you will remember to rename the standardized measure to the actual measures you're using and to update the data. Okay, if you have any questions, you know where to find me, and we will absolutely continue to talk about this in class, but this should give you a good idea where you can, even if you had to, play the video, pause, and work through the graphs to complete your graphs for your poster and your presentation. All right. All right. We'll see you soon.